You think you know what's real? These three true stories, a deadly stranger's betrayal, a $500 million art heist, and a town's silent revenge, will make you question everything. Picture this: a quiet night shattered by a stranger's desperate plea, a museum stripped of priceless art by fake cops, and a town bully gunned down in broad daylight with no one willing to talk. These aren't plots from a thriller novel, they're real events that defy belief. In this journey, we'll dive into three jaw-dropping tales where truth outshines fiction: Charles Holden's terrifying encounter, the audacious Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist, and a chilling vigilante justice against Ken Rex McElroy. Buckle up, these stories will leave you stunned at how strange reality can be. The mysterious encounter, Charles Holden and the stranger. Charles Holden had just wrapped up a long day at work. Exhausted and eager to get home, he decided to stop at a fast food restaurant, not far from his neighborhood in Harrington, Delaware. The night was quiet, with only a few cars scattered around the lot as he grabbed the quick meal, unknowingly setting the stage for an unexpected and dangerous encounter. He finished his food quickly, got into his truck, and turned the engine on, ready to head home. Just as he was about to drive out of the parking lot, he noticed a figure running towards him. The man, disheveled and looking out of place, was waving his arms frantically, trying to get his attention. At first, Charles hesitated. It was late, and he had a bad feeling about the situation. But as the stranger drew closer, the desperation in his eyes made Charles second-guess his instincts. He rolled down the window, asking what the man wanted. The stranger's voice was shaky as he explained his need for a ride. He claimed his sister was in labor at the hospital, about 20 minutes away. Without any further details, he pleaded with Charles for help, his eyes filled with urgency. Charles, still unsure, felt a wave of uncertainty wash over him. It was the middle of the night, and something about the whole situation seemed off. But the stranger's plea for help stirred a reluctant sympathy in him. After a moment's pause, he decided to give the man a ride, but only part of the way. The decision made, Charles unlocked the passenger side door, and the man climbed in. The truck pulled out of the lot, and the two men drove in silence for a few miles. But as they reached a quiet stretch of road, something about the stranger's demeanor began to shift. The man was no longer acting desperate or thankful. Instead, he became agitated, his hands fidgeting in his pockets as if searching for something. Charles's gut instinct flared up, and he quickly glanced at the stranger. Suddenly, the stranger pulled a knife, or something similar, out of his pocket, and Charles felt a cold rush of fear flood his veins. "Hand over your keys," the man demanded, his voice now filled with menace. "Or I'll kill you." Charles's heart raced. He'd made a wrong turn somewhere, that much was clear. What was supposed to be a simple favor was now spiraling into a life-threatening situation. He slammed on the brakes, stopping the truck in the middle of the road. His mind raced, this was not the time to argue. Without thinking, he yanked the keys from the ignition, grabbed his wallet, and bolted out of the truck, hoping to escape. Behind him, the stranger leaped out of the passenger seat, chasing him down. His breath ragged, his steps heavy, the stranger was gaining ground fast. Charles's heart pounded in his chest as he sprinted toward a convenience store in the distance, the hope of safety pushing him forward. But he could hear the stranger closing in, his footsteps growing louder and faster. Desperation clawed at Charles as he realized he wasn't going to make it. He stopped running and turned around, his hands held out in surrender. Okay. You can have everything," he pleaded, his voice trembling. "Take my keys, my wallet, just don't hurt me." To his surprise, the stranger's anger faded. He smiled, a look of twisted satisfaction crossing his face as he slowly approached. The fear in Charles's chest twisted, but he had no choice. His only option was to comply. Reluctantly, Charles returned to the truck with the stranger trailing behind, the weapon still in hand. They reached the vehicle, and the stranger ordered Charles to get back inside. With no more options, Charles obeyed, but the second he sat down in the driver's seat, he knew something had shifted. With a sharp motion, Charles turned the ignition and floored the gas pedal. The truck lurched forward, the stranger too slow to react, and Charles drove away, heart pounding. The man, now helpless on the side of the road, watched as Charles sped off. For a moment, it felt like he had escaped. But then, as he glanced in the rearview mirror, his relief turned to horror. The stranger had gotten back on his feet and was chasing after the truck, screwdriver raised, his anger unleashed. For a moment, it seemed like the chase might go on forever. But then, something unexpected happened. The stranger stopped. He turned around and walked back into the night. Charles, now utterly shaken, sped away. The situation was over, at least, that's what he thought. But the fear didn't dissipate. Charles knew that he couldn't let his guard down. What if the stranger was still out there, waiting? What if he had seen his face, recognized his truck? He couldn't risk going home, not yet. So he decided to stay out of town, driving aimlessly for what felt like hours, keeping an eye out for any sign of the stranger. When he finally felt like enough time had passed, Charles cautiously returned to Harrington. He pulled onto a street, still on edge. But as his headlights swept across the quiet road, his stomach dropped. There, in the distance, was the stranger walking down the street, completely oblivious to Charles's presence. Fear gripped him again. What were the odds that this could be happening again? His heart raced as he slammed the car in reverse and sped off, leaving the stranger behind. Now thoroughly terrified, Charles decided it was time to call the police. His nerves were shot. The stranger was still out there, and he had no idea if he was being followed or if the man even knew where he lived. But something told him that he had to take precautions. He dialed 911, explaining the situation in detail. The dispatcher assured him help would be on the way. A short while later, an officer arrived to escort him home. When they reached Charles's property, the stranger was nowhere to be seen. Relief washed over him, but his concern didn't end there. He hadn't checked on his mother, Dorothy, who lived just behind him. She was elderly and lived alone. With his heart still racing, he asked the officer to do a quick check on her. The officer agreed and made his way to Dorothy's house, crossing through the bushes that separated the two properties. Almost immediately, he noticed something was wrong. The back window had been shattered, and the door was ajar. The officer drew his gun, instinctively preparing for whatever lay inside. Inside the house, the officer called out, but no answer came. Silence. Darkness. As he searched the first floor, he found nothing. But then, at the top of the stairs, the officer saw something that made his blood run cold, a trail of blood leading into one of the bedrooms. Inside, Dorothy lay motionless, her life taken in an unthinkable act of violence. The officer quickly realized what had happened. The man Charles had driven away had come looking for a place to sleep, and he had chosen the wrong house. Gilbert Cannon, the stranger, had broken into Dorothy's home, and in his panic, he had killed her, not knowing that she was Charles's mother. It was an unfortunate and tragic twist of fate. Gilbert Cannon was arrested, eventually pleading guilty to the murder and receiving a life sentence without the possibility of parole. But the true horror of the night lay in the randomness of it all: one fateful encounter, a series of bad decisions, and a life lost. The infamous art heist, the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum robbery. On the night of March 18, 1990, the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, one of Boston's most renowned cultural landmarks, became the scene of what would go down in history as the largest and most famous art heist in the United States. Two men, cleverly disguised as police officers, made their way past the unsuspecting security guards at the museum. The burglars, who appeared completely legitimate in their costumes, would go on to steal 13 invaluable pieces of art from the museum, including Rembrandt's Christ in the Storm on the Sea of Galilee, Vermeer's The Concert, and works by Degas, Manet, and others. The total value of the stolen art is estimated at an astonishing $500 million, making it the most significant unsolved art theft in American history. The robbery began around 1:24 a.m. when the two thieves rang the doorbell of the museum's security office, claiming to be police officers responding to a disturbance. The night shift security guards, unaware of any issue, allowed the men inside. It was clear that the thieves had planned the heist meticulously, capitalizing on their false authority. Once inside, the fake officers swiftly overpowered the guards, tying them up and locking them in a security room. For the next 81 minutes, the men ransacked the museum's gallery spaces, systematically selecting works of art that would later become famous not only for their immense value but also for their mysterious disappearance. The art thieves were not only after the masterpieces but also had a clear objective in mind: to erase any trace of their presence. They meticulously cut the paintings from their frames, leaving the frames behind in a scene of utter chaos. The thieves knew that destroying the security footage was paramount to their escape, so they damaged the cameras, ensuring there would be no visual record of the crime. The heist itself was shockingly well executed, raising questions about how the thieves managed to infiltrate a high-security institution so smoothly. The involvement of the security guards has always been a point of contention. The guards, who were supposed to be protecting the artwork, were seemingly complicit in the plan, and their actions have been subject to heavy scrutiny. It has been suggested that the guards, possibly fearing for their safety or being threatened, didn't raise an alarm or resist the burglars. Some even believe that the theft could have been an inside job, orchestrated by someone with intimate knowledge of the museum's layout and security procedures. But while the robbers made their escape with the art, the mystery only deepened in the aftermath. The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, founded by the wealthy widow Isabella Stewart Gardner, has a rich history tied to the philanthropic collection of artworks. Following the heist, the museum continued to offer a $10 million reward for information leading to the recovery of the stolen pieces. Despite this, the investigation failed to uncover the identities of the thieves, and the whereabouts of the stolen art remains one of the most perplexing mysteries of modern times. The FBI has pursued leads, but none of the suspects have been charged. Both of the men believed to be responsible for the crime are now deceased, leaving the case cold. The museum's relentless pursuit of the art's return has resulted in a profound sense of loss for the institution, the art community, and the public. The stolen artworks are not only valuable for their immense worth but also for their cultural and historical significance. Rembrandt's Christ in the Storm on the Sea of Galilee holds particular importance because it is the only seascape that the artist ever painted. The theft of such a unique and irreplaceable painting has led to theories that the thieves may have been looking for specific works to steal, possibly with a buyer already lined up. However, the mystery deepens because none of the stolen pieces have surfaced on the black market, leaving experts to wonder whether the thieves knew more about the value of the works than anyone realized. The museum's current efforts to retrieve the art are also shrouded in intrigue. Over the years, there have been numerous public appeals, including a push for the FBI to keep the case open indefinitely. Yet, despite new developments in media coverage, there is little progress in recovering the stolen pieces. Rumors swirl that the paintings could still be hidden away in private collections or even destroyed, but without definitive proof, the mystery persists. The role of the guards in the theft remains controversial. While some believe they were simply victims of a well-executed plan, others suspect they may have been involved in the robbery, either out of fear or complicity. In fact, some experts believe the thieves knew exactly how to bypass the security system, suggesting that they had inside knowledge of the museum's operation. This theory is further fueled by the lack of evidence at the scene, as if the burglars had made sure to cover their tracks carefully. In the years following the heist, there have been several theories about the identity of the thieves. Some experts believe the crime was orchestrated by an organized criminal group, while others suspect that it was a more personal affair, driven by an individual or small group of thieves with knowledge of the art world. The involvement of fancy police officers only adds another layer of complexity to the case, leading some to wonder if the museum itself was unknowingly linked to a larger criminal network. The stolen art, which includes pieces by legendary artists like Vermeer, Degas, and Manet, has led to the conclusion that the heist was not just about stealing valuable works, but about creating a legacy of mystery and intrigue around the pieces themselves. The fact that these works have never been recovered only adds to the allure of the heist, making it an enduring mystery. Some people still speculate about the art's current location, questioning whether the thieves kept it for themselves or whether it is being hidden by someone with connections to the black market. But despite all the questions, the artwork remains elusive. The museum's official position is that the case is still open, and it continues to offer rewards for information that could lead to the art's recovery. In the end, the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist stands as one of the most audacious crimes in the art world, and the mystery continues to captivate public imagination. As the years go by, the question remains, will the stolen art ever be recovered? The heist's significance is not just in the loss of priceless artworks, but also in the continued search for answers, the chase for justice, and the enduring mystery that captivates the world. For those interested in the ongoing investigation and efforts to recover the stolen art, the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum's official page provides regular updates. While the artwork remains hidden, the quest to solve the mystery and bring the thieves to justice continues. The infamous criminal, Ken Rex McElroy's reign of terror. Ken Rex McElroy was a name that echoed in Skidmore, Missouri, with a chilling resonance. Known as the town bully, McElroy's reign of terror extended over many years, during which he used intimidation, fear, and violence to maintain his stranglehold over the town. Born in 1934, McElroy quickly became a figure whose very presence sent ripples of dread through the small farming community. His criminal record was long, yet the justice system seemed unable or unwilling to touch him. Assault, child molestation, statutory rape, arson, cattle rustling, and burglary were only a few of the offenses McElroy committed, and he was rarely held accountable for them. A man who lived by violence and intimidation, McElroy was notorious for his control over the town's residents. He had a temper that matched his physical stature. McElroy was a towering figure, weighing in at over 270 pounds, and he was quick to use threats of violence to get his way. He would steal livestock from his neighbors' farms, take their goods, and intimidate them into silence. Those who had the courage to report his crimes were often met with further intimidation, as McElroy would stake out their homes, threaten them with violence, and even go so far as to fire shots into the air to demonstrate his power. Fear permeated Skidmore, and many residents were too terrified to act. The legal system failed to bring McElroy to justice, despite numerous attempts. In one case, he was arrested after shooting a local man, but McElroy's powerful legal team, which he had access to through his ill-gotten gains, ensured that he was acquitted. This same legal team had a reputation for getting criminals off the hook, a further reflection of McElroy's ability to manipulate the system to his advantage. McElroy seemed untouchable, and with each passing day, his reputation grew. He was feared by many, and there were whispers in the town that no one would ever be able to stop him, at least, not through traditional means. By the late 1970s, McElroy's crimes escalated further. He preyed on young women, including a 12-year-old girl named Trina. After repeatedly assaulting her, McElroy forced Trina's family into a corner, blackmailing them into marrying their daughter to him. As the 1970s turned into the 1980s, McElroy's reign seemed to reach its peak. But even then, his actions weren't going unnoticed. The residents of Skidmore had had enough. While law enforcement and the courts had proven powerless against McElroy, something darker was afoot in the small town. On the morning of July 10, 1981, McElroy was killed in broad daylight while sitting in his pickup truck outside the D&G Tavern in Skidmore. A crowd of 45 to 60 witnesses saw the killing, but none came forward to identify the shooter. This was a pivotal moment in the history of Skidmore. The townspeople had decided they were no longer going to allow McElroy to continue his reign of terror. Though many in the community had been afraid of McElroy, that fear eventually turned to anger, and then to action. It was as if, at that moment, the town had united in their decision to take justice into their own hands. The shooting of Ken Rex McElroy has been the subject of much debate and speculation. Despite the large number of witnesses, no one was ever charged with his murder. This bizarre and unsettling turn of events has led many to believe that the shooting was an act of vigilante justice. The people of Skidmore had finally decided that they would no longer live in fear. McElroy had terrorized them for too long, and the justice system had failed to hold him accountable. In a sense, the townspeople had taken matters into their own hands, delivering what many saw as a long overdue punishment. However, this act of vigilante justice was not without its consequences. For one, it raised the question of whether the town's actions were justified. While many believed that McElroy's death was necessary, others wondered whether it set a dangerous precedent for taking justice into one's own hands. The issue of vigilante justice is a complex one. While it may seem justified in certain situations, it can often lead to unforeseen consequences, such as anarchy or further violence. In the aftermath of McElroy's death, the case garnered national attention. It has been the subject of various media portrayals, most notably in Harry N. McLean's 1988 book In Broad Daylight, which chronicles McElroy's life and his eventual demise. The book explores the impact McElroy had on Skidmore and the emotional and psychological toll his reign of terror took on the town. The case also became the focus of the 2019 documentary series No One Saw a Thing, which investigates the aftermath of McElroy's death and the silence that surrounded it. This silence has been one of the most perplexing aspects of the case. Despite so many witnesses to the crime, no one came forward with information. Was this out of fear, loyalty to the community, or something else? The McElroy case also raised broader questions about the role of law enforcement and the justice system in small communities. In towns like Skidmore, the legal system often feels distant and ineffective. When the authorities fail to deliver justice, as they did in McElroy's case, people may begin to feel that they have no choice but to take justice into their own hands. This sets the stage for a dangerous cycle where the rule of law is undermined, and individuals are left to make decisions based on their own sense of right and wrong. As the years have passed, the death of Ken Rex McElroy has continued to captivate the public imagination. Many have seen it as a case of justice finally being served, while others have viewed it as a tragic and dangerous act of mob justice. In the end, the people of Skidmore took matters into their own hands, but the questions surrounding the case have never truly been answered. Who shot McElroy? Why did the townspeople remain silent? Was this an act of justice, or was it a symbol of a system breaking down? Despite the passage of time, Ken Rex McElroy's death remains a poignant example of how communities sometimes take justice into their own hands when they feel that the legal system has failed them. The case continues to spark debates on the ethics of vigilante justice, and it serves as a reminder of the complex relationship between crime, punishment, and the pursuit of justice. As for Skidmore, the memory of McElroy's reign of terror, and the way it ended, will likely haunt the town for many years to come. The legacy of this case raises questions that may never be fully answered, and it remains a topic of discussion among true crime enthusiasts, legal scholars, and anyone interested in the darker side of human nature. Conclusion: the truth that surpasses fiction. The truth often surpasses fiction in ways that leave us awestruck, questioning what is real and what might only belong in a story. Today, we've explored the stories of unbelievable events, moments where life has delivered far more than what we might expect from any novel or film. From the terrifying reign of Ken Rex McElroy to the daring heists that seemed too outrageous to be true, we've delved into real-life stories that seem like they could only exist within the boundaries of fiction. But the truth is, these events happened, and their impact on those involved is as lasting as any fictional plot twist. What is it about these real-life tales that captivate us so deeply? Perhaps it's the sheer improbability of what occurred, the way life sometimes defies the rules of logic and reason. When we read stories of unsolved mysteries or witness events where the boundary between the plausible and the impossible is blurred, we're left with a mixture of wonder, disbelief, and a hunger for understanding. We often look for patterns or explanations, but sometimes, no matter how hard we try, the truth simply doesn't make sense. And yet, it's this very absurdity that draws us in. Consider McElroy's life and death. His actions were so beyond the norm that, even when the townspeople finally took justice into their own hands, it seemed almost inevitable. How could a man so deeply feared and hated by the community continue to manipulate and terrorize people with such impunity? And when justice was finally served, in a way that no court or law could have delivered, the quiet aftermath of his death spoke volumes about the lengths to which people will go when they feel that the systems in place can no longer protect them. This is a reminder of how fragile the line is between societal order and the chaos that can arise when those systems fail. Then there's the story of the museum heist, a daring crime carried out under the guise of authority, and a theft that has yet to be solved. The audacity of the thieves, masquerading as police officers, is nothing short of cinematic. But it's real. The stolen art, now worth hundreds of millions, represents more than just material loss. It's the story of deception, greed, and the fragile nature of trust in society. How can we trust the systems that are meant to protect us when they are so easily exploited? These stories are more than just thrilling accounts. They are reflections of the complexities of human nature and the unpredictable forces that drive us. They remind us that, no matter how much we try to control or understand the world around us, there will always be events that defy our comprehension. It is these very events that keep us questioning, seeking the next piece of the puzzle, trying to understand how the impossible became possible. What do you think about these unbelievable stories? Have you ever encountered something that seemed too strange to be true, only to later discover it was real? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's continue the conversation about how truth, in its most bizarre form, continues to captivate our imaginations. Because sometimes, as these stories prove, the truth really is stranger than fiction.